I recently heard a story which I want to relate to you, and the reason I want to tell you the story is because it's a story in which Prabhupada is saying one thing in his classes and his books, and then in dealing with the devotees, he's basically saying the opposite. And why is this interesting? Well, everything exists within context. So when Prabhupada is writing his books, the context is that he is representing the Bhagavatam, the shlokas, and the commentaries of the acharyas. That's what he's trying to do. And often he's not within any context. Sometimes the purports do mention context in our Krishna consciousness movement, etc. But generally, he's not representing context. He's representing philosophy. He's representing principles. Then in real life, there's context. So sometimes he says something which seems to contradict what he said in his books in real life because he's dealing with a practical situation. So there was a story that one time Prabhupada was preaching about eating less and being austere. And sometimes he would joke with his servants that they just eat and sleep. Because sometimes when he would call them, they would be sleeping because they just had a lot of prasadam. And they took rest after lunch, as Prabhupada took rest after lunch, but sometimes they would continue sleeping. So he would talk about reducing eating and reducing sleeping, and we've all heard this. So one devotee decided he would reduce his eating. He said because when he eats, he just sleeps, and Prabhupada's telling us we shouldn't sleep, and he was a servant, and Prabhupada's telling him don't sleep. So it later came to Prabhupada that this devotee was only eating almonds and milk because in Ayurveda or somewhere it says that you can live just on almonds and milk. And Prabhupada could see the devotee becoming thin, and anyway, Prabhupada heard that he was eating this, and he called him. So the devotee told Prabhupada, I want to reduce my eating and sleeping, and that's why I'm eating just milk and almonds. And Prabhupada said, take prasadam, eat. You need strength. You take regular prasadam. And the devotee said, but Prabhupada, if I take that prasadam, then I'll just sleep. Then sleep all day. But take prasadam. And there is another story. Shrutikirti tells us that sometimes Prabhupada would see him and Prabhupada would say, are you eating enough? And he would say, yes, I'm eating. I think I'm eating enough. I don't want to eat too much. I don't want to oversleep. And Prabhupada saying, no, but you have to serve me and you have to massage me and you have to be strong. So Prabhupada would say, you look thin. Your face looks thin. You need to eat more. So Shrutikirti was also saying something similar that, of course we hear we shouldn't eat much and we shouldn't sleep much. So you reduce eating, you'll reduce sleeping. And so that was his thought. And Prabhupada saying, service, you have to do your service. So there are many examples like this of something which is a principle which we interpret in a particular way, and then Prabhupada doesn't agree or like the way we're interpreting it. Now, for another devotee, he may like it. For another devotee in another situation, he may not like it. So the point is, and senior devotees understand this well, but younger devotees don't understand this so well, statements are within context. So contexts are different, and if you apply it fanatically in a black and white way, it may not always apply. Okay, it's a spiritual principle or philosophical principle, but let us understand how it applies. Like, for example, Prabhupada said no men should get married. And I often say, if no men in ISKCON get married, there are going to be a lot of pregnant brahmacharinis. Now, that's kind of a joke, but it's not really only a joke. I think you all agree it's a fact. So what does Prabhupada mean? It's a principle. If you can remain brahmachari, do it. Your life will be simpler. Your chances of being Krishna conscious will be greater. There's no potholes in the road for you, or less potholes. That's the point. So if you take it in a black and white fanatical way, it means, well, no man should get married, because that's what Prabhupada said. Now, there are so many things like that that we have to understand within context, within a broader philosophical base. Is this the only thing Prabhupada said about this? Did he say anything else? Is there evidence to what appears to be contrary to this? Often there is, because life is balanced, and sometimes if we don't understand the complete balance, then we will misrepresent Prabhupada and will misrepresent the philosophy. I like these stories because they're so graphic. I've told other stories. We told maybe last month that Prabhupada chastised Shruti Kirti for going to Mangal Artik, and he said, you should never go to Mangal Artik. You always have to be with me. Where did Prabhupada ever say in his books we shouldn't go to Mangal Artik, or what to speak of never go to Mangal Artik? No, he said we should go every day. And he's telling his servant, you should not go. It's context. You have to be with me. You have to serve me. One devotee was having difficulty, wasn't even finishing his rounds, but he was serving Prabhupada, and Prabhupada needed him. And Prabhupada said, don't worry, I will maintain your Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada wanted him. And Prabhupada knew that was the best place for him. So where would we ever see, or where would we ever preach that it's okay not to chant your rounds and just do service because Prabhupada will maintain you? We wouldn't. But in that context, Prabhupada said, I will maintain you, and Prabhupada did maintain him. Even though he couldn't chant his rounds. He was so busy. He was only sleeping 4 hours and was just busy all day. So he didn't have time. He couldn't find the time to chant. Maybe he chanted 4 rounds. That was okay for Prabhupada. There are other rare occasions like this where Prabhupada allowed it because someone was so busy. But in general, no. And if you go to Prabhupada's books, always 16 rounds minimum every day. If you go to his letters, always 16 rounds minimum every day. So I think these examples are important. It doesn't mean we can compromise principles, but it does mean at least we should understand that Prabhupada did not apply things exactly always the way he taught them. He adjusted them as necessary. This is not a license to say, okay, what Prabhupada says is not important. But it's meant for us to understand, is this what Prabhupada meant in every situation? Did he apply this principle differently? Can this be applied differently? How do we look at this? How do we understand this? It requires broad intelligence to understand philosophy. And if we don't consider everything Prabhupada said and consider time, place, and circumstance, we may misrepresent Srila Prabhupada to others, or even to ourselves. We may misapply what Prabhupada teaches us. When I was young, I wanted to take sannyas, and Prabhupada said, no, you can't. You're not qualified. You can take vanaprastha. And I thought vanaprastha was a little bit like sannyas. And then, so I was kind of overly renounced, and my wife was upset. And Prabhupada said, no, vanaprastha just means you're not going to have more children. So he wants to, dedicate himself more to preaching. Okay, keep it simple. Don't have any more children. That's all he meant. I understood it much differently. It means austerity, go to the forest. I mean, that's the general idea. The principle is austerity, renunciation, separating, becoming detached, separating from one's wife. So, we have to understand the philosophy in a broad way, and both broadly and deeply. Hare Krishna.